Policies and Priorities Committee meeting to order for Monday, January 8th, 2024. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Norbury.
That all items in the January 8th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Clickash. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for December 11th, 2023 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. A recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the December 11th, 2023 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Clickash. Any errors or omissions? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Any business arising for the minutes, Council? Staff?
None.
Thank you. Reports, strategic direction, report dated January 8, 2024 from the Interim CAO and Director of Corporate Services regarding the strategic direction. Recommendation? Councillor Julich.
The council receives the strategic priorities report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Julich.
For me, prior to the meeting, I thought it looked good. I didn't know all of I had to reach out and find out what some of the letters stood for because I didn't remember and I didn't have my notes handy. So that was nice. I thought it was put together really well. And I still think it's okay. I did have a conversation. I'll just let that person bring that up on their own selves. I think it looks good, and I appreciate all the work that went into it.
Thank you. So I'm going to make a couple of comments. One thing I'd like to see this brought to a budget discussion, and the reason I say that our CFO is unable to attend tonight, but there's things here that we've put into the strategic direction that could be budget implications, so tax increase or that. And that concerns me to make sure that we know what we're doing when we start adding it. I know this was going to be coming to a regular meeting, but I think it should just go to a budget meeting so that we know that there's certain things that are within this direction that we're asking for the strategic direction that, one, we can afford it, and two, council wants to keep it on once we know what the budget implications are. But that'd be my comments on those. Councillor Julich.
And I agree with Mayor Kakauka. What I would say is when I look at a strategic plan, I look at it as not just a one-year plan. I look at it as like our term, so the rest of the 3 years that we have. So I absolutely agree that I think going to budget is good, knowing what we maybe can and can't do. I think we did a good job in that meeting, prioritizing what we thought was important. They were all important. I can't think of the word I want right now, but that were a priority. So yeah, I think perfect, yeah, to have at a budget meeting so we can kind of see and then we can prioritize from them because there are some stuff that, because what I understand is Aline told me too, Ms. Torville told me, I know A is advocacy. O is, can I ask? Because I'm just I'm just thinking if I didn't know what they are, then probably people watching the video, could we get Ms. Torville to tell us what the OA and C are?
From my understanding, Council, the A is advocacy, O is operational, and C is council.
Yep. Correct.
Thanks. So I think that, yeah, like I think we can go from there. The advocacy stuff generally doesn't cost anything, but then there's all those other ones. So yes, I agree, Mayor Kakauka, in a really long drawn-out way. I haven't had a chance to talk this new year.
I was going to say, it must have been a while since we've had a meeting. No, and I agree. It's not a one-year plan. Usually it's, it's definitely probably for our term of council. Sometimes you'll see some things get completed, so things will move up on the list, but some things will actually move on in the other years moving forward from whoever is council that day, and to decide that those priorities were important now, important to carry forward, and some of those some of the ones that are actually on here are from previous councils that have, to me, whether it's the trail master plans and finishing trails and daycare and youth and broadband and healthcare. Those are overlapping from other previous councils. So, but yeah, like to me, I know we never, and when we did this discussion, there wasn't, we didn't know what budget numbers were for certain things. And I think, obviously having a CFO in the room to be able to, kind of see where we're at in regards to our budget. And then, if we need to move something to a different year instead of 2024, it could be moved to 2025. But that's just my thoughts. Okay, any more discussion from rest council? Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I was, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I was happy with the procedure. It was a great way to get council and staff together in a room to come up with our list of strategic priorities. And, it's not just council-led, it's not just staff-led. You mentioned about, some of these were old priorities that continued over. Well, it's because there's still a need, right? And it's a whole new plan set by this whole new council. And I hope as we continue to go through these issues, we'll have another one to sort of see where we set another year or 2 years after we start knocking some of these off. I think it's always a good idea to see how much this will cost, but I think it's also appropriate to have a discussion now so that staff can still get a feel for council. Well, do they agree with this? Yes, then we can come up with plans on what the costs are. So we're at you're putting in front of a budget meeting to discuss it. It's kind of like, well, what comes first? Do we decide this is what we want and then they investigate, or do we find how much it costs before we even do it? So, I think it's a great way we're doing it, and I'm happy that we have a strategic priorities chart for this council.
Thank you, Councilor Norbury. Councilor Oksana.
Thank you. I would agree that a lot of these need to go to a budget meeting so we know what we're looking at going forward. But there's absolutely some things that we could be looking at now. There's calls to action for council, like reading the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. There was another one, reviewing the downtown design guidelines. It's marked C. It's something that we could be reviewing now, so we're ready when that comes across our desk.
Councilor Giseau.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add than other to say I really appreciated the report here, how it's laid out, and I couldn't agree more that this should be going to a budget as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Julik.
I guess I just want to go back to Councillor Norbury's point and figure out then, because I agree that what comes first. So I feel like we also need to give staff direction. I don't see anything in here that I'm not on board with. I think it's fairly inclusive. I think that, I think they captured it all. I thought we had a really good day doing that. So I feel like, as Councillor Norbury said, that if we approve it, so if we say to staff today, let's bring it to a regular meeting, we can still go ahead with it. And then, because I don't think the strategic points are going to change, just how soon we do some of them might change. And so while they're still on that paper, once we put a dollar amount to it, then maybe we do. I just think that there's something to be said for getting it to staff and getting it formally approved while we have our meeting schedule. I don't see why it couldn't go to both. I don't know what our budget meeting schedule looks like, but for their next regular meeting, I think it would be okay for us to approve it with the codicil that, I don't know if that's the right word, but basically that we understand that there could be budgetary implications, so they may not be done in the order that they are within the strategic plan because of budget.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm not saying I can't go to a regular meeting, and some of these things will already be picked up on staff work plans. So that's kind of why I suggested the budget meeting. So some of this stuff's already, to me, I don't want to speak for staff, but my understanding of it in regards to when we did this was a lot of this was already on some of the staff work plans. So they already have budgetary numbers there. That's why I said to the budget. To me, I think this is something that council worked on a full day and a half with. And if we want to put it forward to approve it at our next regular council meeting, I'm fine with that. To me, this is what council built and staff. To me, I'm not into making any changes that all of us attended for a day and a half, as well as staff, as well as a contractor there to walk us through it. This was something we already built that night. We just get to see the final results Unless council has a different opinion, but that was mine, and the reason I said about a budget was for that, is some of this stuff's already within the municipality's senior staff's work plans, so we kind of get to see that. There might not be a huge, oh geez, let's not do that in 2024, that might be too big of a hit. We kind of see where it sits, that's all I was looking for. So, any more discussion? Okay. Need a motion, Ms. Torval, in regards to that?
Yes, please, if I could have a council motion as to your will to have this forwarded to a regular meeting for adoption as presented and with an understanding that it may change.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik?
I make a motion that we bring forward strategic directions report to our next regular council meeting for formal approval, with the understanding that some of the items there could be deferred to a later date for budgetary concerns.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Oksana, discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.2, creation of a helipad or emergency evacuation zone. Report dated January 8, 2024 from the Director of Protective Services, Fire Chief regarding creation of a helipad or emergency evacuation zone. Recommendation, Councillor Julik.
The council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Gisso, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Julik?
When I was reading over this, it sounds like the previous council pretty much took care of it. I don't see the need for us to have anything more with this unless something's changed from staff, if staff has a different opinion now. What I'm seeing here is they're just looking for clarity. My clarity would be is I'm fine to let this sit back on a shelf somewhere until our services within the community ask for it to come forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I would agree with Councillor Julik. Ultimately, the report outlines the fact that the two user groups that would use a potential helipad says it won't affect our operational ability by increasing it, by adding a helipad there. So ultimately, that would be my thoughts there. If our emergency personnel feel that it won't increase their capacity or ability, we might just be spending $350,000 on a helipad for nothing. I think the only concern we had in our previous discussions and even when the group came in was making sure that area is cleared of snow, right, in the wintertime, to still have a place for them to come down. That'd be my only thoughts there is, potentially creation or addition to our snow clearing policy to have that spot cleared up if these organizations feel that they can land there in winter. That'd be my only thoughts. Thanks.
I can just make a comment, I'll go back to staff on it as well. I'm well aware of times that choppers have had to land there, and if it has not been cleared, it has been cleared before the chopper has arrived into the community. I know Public Works isn't in the room, but I'm not sure if it's actually on our snow removing policy, whether it's a level 1, level 2, or level 3. And if it's not, it's something we could probably add, but like I said, I know I'd rather staff talk to it. I don't want to speak in regards to our fire chief, but I know I've worked for BCM, so I know we've had it cleared the last minute. So, Ms. Torval?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kakako. I'm not sure where it sits within our snow clearing policy. I might ask Chief Curry if he is aware.
Mayor and Council, good evening. So the clearing of the area that we currently use for emergency landing operations actually is not defined in the snow clearing policy because it's an outside of anything that needs to be done on a routine basis. So typically when we're alerted through various dispatches that we are going to be landing a helicopter, we have upwards of 30 minutes in order to try and get that for our own logistics in terms of closing off streets and things like that. That's more than ample enough time to have a loader come through and clear it if it's warranted. It is done throughout the year, so they're not trying to clear 6 feet of snow. So it is part of their operational plans with the downtown core to ensure that that area does get done, but it's not a specific level 1, level 2, level 3, or anything like that in the policy. Just for council's information, in 2021, we landed a significant amount of helicopters. I think it was upwards of 6 helicopters we landed throughout that whole season. In 2022, we did 1, and in 2023, we landed 1 helicopter. Quite often, we're seeing fixed-wing aircraft that are coming in and they're going out to the airport where warranted, and it's obviously safer for that, and that's where I'll kind of leave that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka, for asking staff to answer that. Thank you, Chief Curry. Because ultimately, I want to make sure our response readiness is always there, but also I don't want to take away from any residential street, right? Emergency use, hearing that we can get a loader out there quickly enough, that's great to hear. I don't think we need to add it into policy if that's the case, or unless staff asks us to. If we're able to pivot when needed, because also I'd hate for us to go out there and waste a bunch of money plowing in every snowfall event for the sake of clearing it for a snowfall event. So it's a good balance there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks staff for their comments, but and I think they hit it on the nose that when there's time permits to go and clear it anyways, they don't have to clear 6 feet of snow. So I think it's in their radar, within their work plan. I think it doesn't need to be something we add to a policy. Okay, any more discussion in regards to that? Okay, moving on, extreme weather-related emergencies, report dated January 8, 2024, from Director of Protective Services, Fire Chief, regarding extreme weather-related emergencies. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Julik. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I think it's a great idea for us to develop this policy, mostly because we've had instances where a policy I think would be warranted. We saw this year where we had some major heat issues and we've had to create cooling centers within our community center. And I think it's appropriate. Same with the winter time, if the power goes out and it's freezing, what can people do? My only comments in this would be to have some communication elements added. The reason being is that it's great for us to have these ideas, but if they don't reach the intended recipients, then it's moot, right? So things I think is important for us to have would be non-electronic communication, right? So I think it's easy for us to rely upon social media or website when sometimes that may not be able to transmit that way. So I know it's a big daunting task. How are we going to do it? We can do smoke signals. That's not going to work, but I think it's something for us to consider. Thanks.
I think you make good comments there. And before we go to Councillor Julik, when we talk about, not everybody has the access or $5, I guess. Not everybody has the access or that to the internet or understand the usage of it. Maybe we need to look at something, and again, budgetary discussions, but a communication board somewhere within the municipality, downtown, wherever it is, and it's for all that. Whether it's for this or the cats, the off-leash dogs, or dog licenses, whatever we're doing in regards to communication. And I guess to me, it almost needs to be a policy in regards to, I know we have communication policy and stuff like that, but to me, if we're going to add something in there, what would get put onto that board? Or something like that. But then it's not, don't get me wrong, I know we have other places, library, the community center has a board, the post office, all that, but if we actually have a direct district of Tunbridge board, that stuff like this would go on, I think that way it would get out. We know we can direct people to it if they're not connected. Councillor Julik, and then Councillor Dussault.
I think those are all really good points. I think we maybe need to remember some of our user groups in town and using them as a point of contact. The seniors center, the community center, all of those things. I know that there's other places within our community that we could have some of that stuff posted. To Councillor Norbury and Mayor Kakalka's points about non-social media kind of stuff. I think what I took from this is that this was something that was on staff's radar anyways, due to provincial requirements at this time. I think that it's something that we could also make sure we have town hall, like when we do our town halls, that we have that conversation there to say these are some heating and cooling, like this is part of a new thing that we're doing for the community. Especially when you talked about the power outage, I remember when we had that 3-day outage, the community center was the place for folks to go, and because it was cool at the time, and just not having power to cook and all of that stuff. I think the other part to stay in everybody's radar is that all staff know of the things, because I think that sometimes we forget that a lot of people go immediately to staff, particularly the community center. Those kind of folks are point of reference, and so that we keep that on our radar as well as we look to work on our connection within the community. So I trust that Chief Curry will do what he needs to do to make sure that we, like, I don't even care if he copies what was given and does a whole copy and paste thing, that makes sure we tick all the boxes for the province. And so I'm not looking for anybody to do a bunch of calisthenics for this, but I appreciate that we need to definitely have a plan.
Councillor Dussault and then Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what everybody is saying. The one question that I do have, and if this was posed to me a while back, so I'm going to bring it up now while we're having this discussion, is do we within our town have one of those posts that have the voice horn on it?
Staff. Ms. Torval? Looking like if we have a loudspeaker or an alert, something like that, is what I'm assuming Councillor Dussault was asking about. I think
Okay.
years ago, certain areas had them. I don't know if Tumbler Ridge was ever built with something like that. I know there's communities that do have that availability.
I'm not aware, Council, but I will defer to Chief Curry.
Thank you, Ms. Torval, Mayor and Council. So Tumbler Ridge does not utilize a loudspeaker or an air raid siren for a notification system for emergencies. It was posed to council in the early 2000s. I believe it was just after we actually had our first wildfire event as a means to try and inform everybody on mass notice. There's a lot of logistics that come with that, and when does it actually get used, what's it used for, times, testing, and everything like that. So it ultimately didn't come to fruition.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Dussault?
Thank you for that. No follow-up, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I love the idea of getting this policy underway, and in the schematics that are included, it has the warnings that would go out for each region. So it has like the Northeast, how warm it has to be. I would love to see something like that publicized as well if we're doing public information, and also for cold. So folks know this is the window we're looking for, the threshold we're looking for, and I can go here or here for heat or cold, and just gives them something to expect, I think, and yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, looking for a recommendation from council to staff. Councillor Norbury?
That staff begin policy development in relation to extreme weather-related emergencies.
Seconder? Councillor Clickash? Discussion? Just want to confirm with staff that they received that. Ms. Torval?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. Any more discussion? Councillor Julik?
Not on that, on the next item.
Okay. Any more discussion in regards to extreme weather-related emergencies? Okay, special use permit application for road restoration, request for input. Request for district's input on Aski Reclamation LPS special use permit application for road restoration in the South Peace region. Councillor Julik.
I'm going to excuse myself as I have a conflict. Wild River, our business, does work with Roy Northern and Aski.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So When in review of this item, I reached out to our,
For discussion?
yes,
Seconder?
thank you.
Councillor Dussault, all in favor? Carried. Councillor
It's
Norbury?
good to catch me on those now and then, hey?
Once in a while.
Yeah, thank you. So I reached out to Duncan McKellar, our manager of the community forests, and he informed me that the community forest has also received this, and he is reviewing it to see if there are any issues with decommissioning this road. So he'll have to get back to us about that. I mean, ultimately, I agree with the idea of declassifying Forest Service roads so that they can go back to nature. As one of the things we learned about with this whole caribou stuff is that the predators are using them as like these highways to get up to higher elevations that they wouldn't normally do. So it's creating a change in our ecosystem that might not be the greatest. So, yeah, well, as soon as I hear anything back from the community forest, we'll let council know.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion from council? My question back to staff would be, have we reached out to Tori just to confirm in regards to this for the user groups? Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, we had staff reach out to the members of Tora, and we have heard back from 2 of those groups, and that they reported that there are no complications at this time.
Okay.
They see no issues.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for staff for reaching out. I know that was one of the questions I had at agenda review, is just to make sure we're reaching out to user groups. And Tora is obviously a great organization that we can reach out, and we can reach multiple user groups to make sure that we're not hindering an access route. So, any more discussion from council? I'm assuming staff doesn't need anything from council on this one. I mean, it's input. It doesn't sound like we have any concerns raised from Tora, which obviously affects some of the user groups that are associated with them. And I'm assuming they would have reached out to some of the groups that don't sit at the table. And the only other thing would be, I guess, if the community forest sees a concern, they can reach out. All right. Okay. Did somebody want to grab Councillor Julich, please? There was none. Sorry. Okay, moving forward, take adjournment. Council Norbury,
That the January 8th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting be adjourned.
seconder, Council Dussault, all in favor? Carried.